We all know the story. A peaceful afternoon in an English orchard, a falling apple, and a sudden flash of insight into the mechanics of the heavens. But that pristine pastoral legend hides a much darker, sanitized myth. The man who defined the rules of motion was deeply paranoid, obsessively secretive, and prone to violent intellectual grudges. To understand how our modern world was built, we have to look past the gentle folklore and examine the fractured mind of its primary architect. Born prematurely and abandoned by his mother at age 3, Newton developed a hostile independence. He grew up preferring the predictable logic of mechanical models to the volatility of human relationships. In 1665, the bubonic plague reached Cambridge, forcing the university to close. The 23-year-old student retreated to his desolate childhood home in Lincolnshire for 18 months of strict quarantine. Since existing math couldn't measure continuous change, Newton developed flexions to calculate the instantaneous speed of a moving point. He used this math to link Earth to the sky, proving the same force governs falling objects and the orbiting moon. These mathematical proofs for universal attraction were drafted by a man who had retreated from society into the silence of his childhood garden. After returning to Cambridge, Newton became obsessed with the properties of light. He wanted to know if glass prisms physically stained white light, or if white light was actually a mixture of existing colors. This was the experimentum crucis. Passing an isolated red ray through a second prism, it remained red, proving color is a fundamental property of light. This revealed a flaw. Glass lenses in existing telescopes acted as prisms, blurring images with chromatic aberration. To solve it, Newton abandoned glass lenses. He began mixing his own alloys of copper and tin to create a reflective speculum metal that could be polished into a mirror. The result was the first functioning reflecting telescope. By gathering light with a mirror, he removed the color distortion and created a vastly more powerful way to observe the planets. Newton reinforced his theoretical claims with physical evidence he manufactured himself. This mastery over both the abstract and the mechanical made his authority nearly absolute, and his fear of rivals even more intense. In 1687, he published the Principia. It provided a single set of laws that unified every physical motion in the known universe. But publication turned into a campaign of personal destruction. When Robert Hooke claimed credit, Newton used his growing power to erase him from the scientific record, even allegedly destroying his rival's portraits. His public work was pristine, but his private life was consumed by the occult. In a hidden laboratory at Trinity College, he spent years trying to discover the philosopher's stone and the secret to turning common metals into gold. He also obsessively studied biblical dimensions, attempting to use the architecture of Solomon's temple to mathematically calculate the date of the apocalypse. To Newton, there was no boundary between magic and math. He viewed physics, alchemy, and prophecy as different languages used to encode the secrets of the universe. This need for total dominance led to his most famous conflict, a decades-long dispute with Gottfried Leibniz over who invented calculus. When Leibniz published his own version, Newton utilized his position as president of the Royal Society to organize an official investigation into the matter. He packed the committee with his own supporters and secretly wrote the final report himself, publicly accusing Leibniz of plagiarism while appearing to be an objective observer. Newton was a man who viewed the sharing of credit as a personal defeat. He turned the institution of science into a tool for his own dominance. In his final years, Newton moved from the university to the Royal Mint in London, taking charge of the nation's currency. He applied his meticulous logic to the problem of counterfeiting, building an intelligence network of informants to hunt down coiners and personally ensuring they were sent to the gallows. His desire for absolute control moved from the theoretical to the physical, violently enforcing the laws of the British economy. Newton died in 1727 and was buried in Westminster Abbey, with a funeral fit for a monarch, cementing his status as a secular saint. His work transitioned from static history into the functional blueprints for our world. The math he developed 3 centuries ago is the prerequisite for modern engineering. Every structural calculation, every flight path, and every launch into space relies on the framework he built in isolation. We celebrate the pristine, godlike figure preserved in marble. We rarely acknowledge the vengeful, secretive, and mystical reality of the man who created it. The rational light of the modern age was forged by a man who thrived in the darkest corners of the human mind.